So most people think the hardest part of investing is reaching your first $100,000 or even $1 million. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, it's not. The real hardest part is the first $50,000. And once you cross that line, everything starts to change. I just turned 25 and my investing portfolio just crossed around $700,000. And the single biggest unlock of my financial life was not the moment that I hit my first 100,000, but it was the moment that my portfolio crossed $50,000. And that's when I really started to feel the gravity of it and really started to see, the fruits of my labor. This is when your money actually starts to work for you. And so today I'm gonna show you the exact checklist I would run if I had to start over from $0 again. There's 5 phases. I'm gonna keep it really simple. It's just gonna be a real sequential checklist that you can watch and pause this video, do that step, and then come back for more. And I just want to give you a little disclaimer. This is not financial advice. YouTube, please do not take this down. This is just what I'm personally doing and what I did to get to where I'm at. And this is literally the same advice I told my little sister to do when she's starting out building her wealth journey. So say this video, you're going to go back to this every time you complete a new step. The real reason that most people in their 20s have a really hard time with investing or building their portfolio or even, building their net worth is not because the stock market's hard or they're too lazy or they're not, capable enough of understanding how this works. It's not because of lack of information. It's really because there's an overabundance of information. There's tons of tutorials, tons of videos of do this, do that. First, you need to travel, max out your Roth, pay off your debts or stuff like that. Another may say a 401k is a scam. Don't ever touch your Roth IRA. Investing is useless. Maybe buy some real estate, go all in on Bitcoin. And honestly, half of them are kind of right. They're kind of just in the wrong order. And so here's the truth that nobody really likes to talk about or nobody even mentions. The order matters the most. All right, phase 0, this is the boring stuff that nobody wants to hear. But if you skip this step, then you're kind of just setting yourself up for failure because step 0 is literally just to build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Before you buy a single share of anything, before you start investing, you need cash. You need a fail-safe fund. Yeah, I know it's boring, but it's real. You need this. And preferably you need around 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in a high yield savings account, not a regular bank account like Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo, because they don't really give you anything in return. But if you use a high yield savings account, which on average I think right now gives around like 3 to 4%, let's just say it's 4%. If you put $10,000, you'll get around $400. That's a huge difference for not even doing anything. And it's pretty much the same thing. They're both super safe. And if you don't have one already, I'll link a few in the description down below. I have like 3 of them for different savings goals, but make sure you have them. It's literally free. And the reason why this matters is because 1, in case of any emergency happens, what if your car breaks down, you lose your job, you get an unexpected medical bill, life kind of happens. And if you don't have kind of a fail-safe fund to help you go through any of these emergencies, then you're kind of living life, on the edge. Especially when it comes to investments, the worst thing that you can do is have some sort of emergency fund and then have to sell your stocks to, cover from that emergency fund. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, that literally happened to me. My emergency was just that I forgot that I had to pay my taxes and I kind of just invested everything. Like my first year that I started investing and I actually started my own business, I was super excited about it, right? All the money that I pretty much had, I just threw in my investments. But come around April 15, tax time, I had no money left. It was in the stock market. And so I had to sell a lot of my stocks in order to pay taxes. For me, that was an emergency and that was really sad to do. But if I had, an emergency fund, I could have just pulled from there. But to each their own. It's okay. I learned my lesson. And again, I cannot stress this enough. The emergency fund, this phase 0, is what allows everything else to happen, because if you do not have that fail-safe fund, you're not going to be comfortable, taking risks. All right, then we have step 2, which is to tackle your high interest debts. Honestly, if you have a lot of high interest debts, and I'm talking about anything above 6 to 8% in interest rate, I would actually focus that first. This is compound interest working against you. And the reason why it's super important, again, is because even if you're investing, it doesn't matter. You're not going to outrun high interest rates. The S&P 500 averages around 8 to 12% interest. So it goes up around 8 to 12% a year on average. A credit card on average, I think, is around like 20% interest rates. So that's the same thing working, against you. That's a negative 21% return. That sucks. No one really wants that. And according to LendingTree's Q1 2026 credit card data report, the average credit card APR in America right now is sitting around 21%. And so that is the bar your investments would have to clear just to break even, 21%, which is kind of phenomenal returns. There is a difference between good debts and bad debt. Now, this is kind of personal. This is up to you and, your goals and how much you can kind of handle. But technically speaking, it is also optimal to not pay off your debt, just to pay the minimums on debts with interest rates, below 4% around there, because you could do something called, interest arbitrage. Basically, if you have, let's say you have a student loan at 4%, well, if you can average around 6 to 8% on the stock market, it could be a little more optimal to just invest in the stock market and pay the minimums on the student loan, because, you're arbitraging that interest rate. You're still making more of that money in the stock market and taking advantage of, the time that you have while you're doing it, and you're paying off your student loans, which is a low interest rate. So a lot of people do that. It's really up to you. You just want to make sure that you are, again, hitting the minimums and you are investing, but it really depends on, your goals and how much you can handle. And so for this phase, the order that I would personally run is the emergency fund first. It doesn't have to be the full 3 to 6 months. That's like just the good rule of thumb. It could be $500, $1,000, just something, some little buffer between you and life. And then all of my financial willpower, all of my energy into aggressively paying all the debt. And then we can move into being more offensive with investing. All right, now we're moving on to phase one, which is the foundation, where you kind of set up all of these accounts. And the very first investing account that I want you to open is a Roth IRA, not your regular brokerage. You may already have a 401k, a Roth IRA. This is probably the most important account that you should have, and this should be like number one priority. And I'm sure you heard this before, maybe on TikTok, or maybe you've seen me talk about it in a video, but a Roth IRA is basically just individual retirement account that lets you invest money into the stock market, and all of those gains that you have in this account is tax-free. You don't have to pay capital gains tax as long as you abide by, a couple of rules. And since it is a retirement account, you technically can't pull out, the gains until you're 59 and a half. You can pull out the contributions without paying any fees earlier, but again, this is literally just for retirement. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna sit here in the comments and say, oh, but I want my money now, blah, 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 blah. This is just one of the accounts you're using. You're gonna have other accounts that's more liquid where you can pull out, but even when you're investing, you wanna be thinking long term. So this is literally the account that you're gonna retire on when you're old and wrinkly. So you'll have other accounts, you'll have other money. You're not putting 100% of your dollars into a Roth IRA. And guess what? You can't even do that. The government knows that it's so OP, it's so overpowered, that they limit how much you can actually put and contribute into the Roth IRA. I think this year it's around $7,500 if you're under 50. And so when you're opening this Roth IRA, don't think about it too much. It's literally just another investing account that's just made for retirement. And the reason why you want to fund this first and start this as early as possible is because, again, of compound interest. And if you just look at any sort of compound interest calculator, you see how in the beginning it starts off a little slow, but then at the end, when the money that you invested makes more money, and then that money makes more money, and it starts to really, start to go crazy. I'll show you on the screen. This is my Roth IRA right now. And so I have a mix of index funds. I usually do mainly index funds, but as I kind of got older, I realized that with my Roth IRA, since I don't plan on, selling or kind of doing anything with it, I kind of should be a little more aggressive with it, just because, you don't pay any capital gain tax. So some of the money that I have, I actually bought into individual stocks like Google, AMD, things that it's not like super risky. I'm not really day trading with it. I'm not looking at it, but these are things that I can see and I want to hold for the next, 20, 40 years. And, they've been doing pretty well. Look at AMD go. You can use any brokerage. I think Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, Webull, Public, they have all Roth IRAs. And if you don't want one brokerage, you can always just switch it to another one. Don't take it too seriously. I have mine with Vanguard, but that's just me. A lot of people I know use Fidelity, Schwab, it doesn't matter. And before we get to phase two, I just want to show you something that I made real quick for free for you guys. It's a free one-page version of pretty much everything in this video, and it's the 5 steps to investing checklist. Again, it's 100% free. It has all the steps in the exact order that I use, the brokerage that I use, the funds, the things that I buy, and even my entire portfolio in there. If you want, I'll put the link in the description down below. Again, it's 100% free. All right, let's get back into it. Phase two, this is kind of where you want to pick your path. Now, what I mean by this is when people start investing, they don't really have any strategy, or maybe they're just copying people. They don't really know what to do. And so I'm just going to kind of make it really simple and simplify everything. There's really 3 paths that people I see that they choose to do. Or the first path I want to talk about, I call the degenerate path. Now, these are people who are kind of like finance nerds. They love the stock market. Maybe they watch American Psycho. Maybe their favorite movie is Wolf of Wall Street, and they just trade individual stocks only and religiously. They follow all the accounts. They're day trading. Maybe they're trading some options. Maybe they're up. Usually they're down a lot, but their eyes are glued to the stock market. They're watching earnings like it's the playoffs, and they love, investing into individual stocks. Like this is like their hobby and pastime. Now, some people are actually really good at this, right? They've mastered the emotional aspect of investing. They know how to do their research. They know how to be patient. But a lot of people, especially if you're young, you're just starting out, you're in your 20s, they kind of just see it as like a casino, or they treat it like a casino, especially because they get dopamine rush every time they make money. And then when they lose money, of course they feel terrible. But then when they make a little bit more money back, they're like, oh, this is so worth it. I love it. Let me keep going. I see a lot of people kind of go down that path. They start trading and everything like that. I highly recommend do not do this path, not until maybe like years down the road where you already created your financial foundation. That path is not the best. It's not for everyone. And so if you're just starting out investing, if you're in your 20s, I highly recommend, to not do that. All right, the second path is I call the lazy path, and this is kind of what I recommend for 90% of the people, and this is kind of how I started after my little time with the day trading, and it's pretty much just choosing only ETFs and index funds. That's it. And the extent to how lazy you want to be really depends, because you can technically just buy one index fund that just covers the entirety of the stock market, things like VTI, VTSAX. I know there's other versions of it. I have it on the screen. And so when you do that, you're pretty much, really well diversified. And if we go into Vanguard's VTI, sheet, you see how many stocks are in there. There's around 3,700, different companies, big, small, mid caps, with an expense ratio of only 3%. So that's around like $3 per $10,000 invested, which is basically nothing for instant diversification. Honestly, I could just stop this video right there and you'd be golden if you just do that. And you'd probably even beat, 80% of the investors out there who think they're smarter than the market or smarter than these rich hedge fund researchers who are doing this every single day, because these hedge funds don't even beat the market. So if you just become the market, you'll do fine. And so it's really up to you. And I just want to share this statistic because it's kind of crazy. According to SPI VA scorecard, over the last 15 years, around 89% of professional active fund managers underperformed the S&P 500. So again, if you're trying to time the market to beat the market, you may not win. And so you can just become the market, and you probably not necessarily win, but you'll match the market, which is good enough for me. But again, this is really up to you. I suggest starting off just doing index funds, ETFs, just because it keeps it simple. You're investing, you don't have to worry about it. You can think about other things that are more important to your life. All right, the third path is a mix of both, and I call it the 70-30 path. Now, this is when maybe you earned your stripes a little bit, you start investing and you want to, start dabbling into more individual stocks, you enjoy it, you see some companies that you like. This is when you mix both of these strategies. My idea is to have 70% index fund ETFs. That's for your foundation. This is something that I automate every single month, every single week. And then the rest of 30% are kind of more high risk, high rewards stocks that I still truly believe in, that I believe are blue chip, that I want to, hold for the next 20 to 40 years, but they're more individual stocks. So I'm willing to be a little more risky with it. And so again, the 70% are just index funds. ETFs is your choice. You can either do all, VTI, total stock market, you can do VOO, a mix of VOO, QQQM, or whatever ETFs that you like. I'm not recommending those. That's just kind of what I have. And then 30% again are individual stocks that I want you to truly believe in and understand. And I would only keep them to the blue chip companies. So I'm talking about the Amazon, the Google, the Meta, the Costco, the AMD, things like that. Now, I'm not saying to buy those specifically, but that's kind of what I own. Again, if you want to see my entire portfolio, I'll put a link down below. But this is kind of my strategy of investing that I've been doing for the past like 6 or something like years, and it's been working really well. That's why I had this set up, and I recommend, if you're starting out, try the lazy path first, get your feet wet, learn how it is. If you have the capacity, the emotional capacity in order to start investing in individual stocks, then go ahead. And so here's a little quick filter if you don't know which path to take. If you don't want to think about it at all, you just want to start investing, if you're young and you just want to start do it, pick the lazy path, gets you invested. You can always start, individual stocks later on. If you actually enjoy the research, you have the time, you have the capacity to do it, do the degenerate path. You can try it out. Don't recommend it. But if you earn your stripes, you kind of have capacity for both, you have cash flow coming in, you want to do both, try the 70-30 path. It's kind of fun. This is what I do. But again, the key thing is the majority of your portfolio needs to be in a little lower risk, passive index funds and ETFs, just my opinion. All right, phase 3, this is arguably the most important step, and is to automate everything. Now, I can't stress this enough. This is the most important and helpful thing that helped me build my network to what it is right now. And it's just to automate the entire process. Now, this is the step that turns everything into an actual system, something that's from advice to something that actually runs without you, even when you're sick, when you're on vacation, even when you don't feel like doing anything at all. This is what makes it a system that actually makes your money work for you while you're not doing anything. And so every single paycheck that you make, every single dollar that goes into your paycheck should be moved around automatically, either into your high yield savings account or your investing brokerages. And the best thing is you can set this up once. You don't really have to, tinker with it anymore. You can just have it, running up. And actually, funny thing is, I have this one automation into VTSAX, one of my biggest investments, and I've had this running ever since I started investing. And so every single week, a couple $100 goes into that account. And I know that it's not probably the most optimal to have VTSAX and VOO, QQM, whatever, because they overlap. And that's literally the reason why I truly believe that my portfolio is as big as it is right now, is because I just automate the entire process. And also the big reason with investing, a lot of people, again, they try to time the market. When you automate, you do an investing strategy called dollar cost average. Now, basically what this means is no matter what, if the stock market is up or down, you're putting money in at the same time, no matter what. So again, if you want to do $100 a week, no matter what, stock market's up, stock market's down, you're putting in there, your money's going to work for you no matter what. These automations, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. They remove the decision entirely. They make sure that your money's working hard for you, and it doesn't give you any space to, you know, splurge and get rid of it or lose it on some gambling or buy whatever. And once you hit the first $50,000 invested, you know, something weird happens. We enter phase 4, and this is when your portfolio really starts to move on your own, and you really start to see the fruits of your labor and how investing really works. And if you remember the diagram that I showed earlier in the video, if the stock market goes up 1% in one day, which, you know, it does happen sometimes, 1% in $5,000 is $50. You know, that's great. That's like 2 Chipotle bowls nowadays. But a 1% day on $50,000, well, that's $500. That's a big difference. That's a lot. That's like groceries for 1 month. That's utilities. That's a couple, you know, bills covered. And that's real money that you didn't have to really do anything for. That's just your money that you worked hard for, working hard for you. Now, I call this being drift invested. This is the moment where your money actually starts pulling its own weights and your contributions stop being, you know, the main engine, and it really starts to snowball and compound. It really starts to take over. And the hockey stick really starts to kind of curve a little bit. And if you look at this analysis of compound interest at, again, $50,000 invested at a long-term S&P 500 average return around 10%, that means on average, every single year, your portfolio is generating around $5,000 in extra cash to your net worth, you know, every single year without you having to do anything, without you having to contribute another dollar. And here's what really no one tells you: the journey from 50K to 100K is way faster than it is to go from $0 to 50K. Now, it's not just the math, it's all the habits, it's all the things that you're learning to get that journey. All right, so now you have these systems in place. You went through phase 0 all the way to 4 in that order. Please, again, do not skip these phases. It's really important. Do not run them out of order. They matter a lot. And again, please do not check your portfolio every single day. You will hate your life. I did. I hated my life. Let's not do that. And honestly, guys, I made, you know, a ton of mistakes to get to where I'm at right now. And if you want to see the full breakdown of how I built this portfolio and my net worth and the things that I would do differently, just click this video right here. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. And of course, till next time.